Yes, we are at the Nelson Insurance Agency, thanks to Mark Showquist and the gang here. The smooth-talking Jim Nelson is not talking right now. What's that all about, Mark?
Well, I think he's just tied up for a minute, but he'll be back here and join us in just a second. So we'll get him back here in a minute, Gordy.
Okay. Well, you heard Jack this morning, Jack Lucking from Cannon Falls, talking about the smooth-talking Jim Nelson.
Jack has always got plenty of compliments for everyone, it seems like. I think he's the king of smooth talkers himself.
Well, there you go. You hear that, Jack? He's probably busy selling a car or truck right now. Well, thanks for having us here. We really appreciate it.
We're glad to have you, Gordy, and hopefully the program is going to be a good one here this morning. We got lots to talk about the upcoming tractor parade that runs from Besa Church to Spring Garden.
It's the Besa Spring Garden Tractor Parade.
That's correct. Spring Garden Church is celebrating the Midsummer Festival, and in conjunction with that, we have the annual tractor parade. I think this is probably the third annual, I believe, and start out with pancakes at Besa Church in the morning at 9 o'clock, and they got Swedish pancakes and lingonberries, I think, to go on top of the pancakes, and they have their church service following the breakfast, and there's a blessing of the tractors, and then the parade starts and continues on to Spring Garden.
What's a Swedish pancake?
A Swedish pancake is just a little different from the typical pancake because it's a little bit thinner and just wonderfully tasty, and you put some lingonberries on top, and you're the next best thing to heaven.
Really?
There's no other words to describe it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. You want to introduce our other guests, too?
Sure. We've got our very fortunate and familiar and famous Pastor Nick here from Spring Garden, and also we got Scott Safe, who's on the Midsummer Committee, and they'll both be making some comments about the upcoming event on Sunday, June 21st in Spring Garden. So
yep, that's Father's Day, you know.
It is, and we had a little bit of a discussion in whether we should actually have it on Father's Day, but then we thought, it'd make a good father-son event, so we're hoping for a great turnout, and of course the weather's going to be sunshine and 70 without a doubt, and it's going to be a good time, Gordy.
Gee, I hope you're right on that weather thing, because I'm tired of feeling like I live in Washington State.
Oh, matter of fact, talking about Washington State, I just got back from there last night, Gordy, and it was about 85 and sunny out there, so we're hoping to bring some of that weather back with us for next Sunday.
Man, it's been raining like crazy here the last couple of days, and I came through a couple of very hard rains on the way over here from Faribault.
We've had adequate rainfall this spring, no doubt about that. We've been fortunate that it has come fairly nice for the most part, and everything's really green, and being in the insurance business here, we just like calm, smooth rain and not much wind and storm. So we appreciate when the good Lord cooperates on that.
Yeah, from what I can tell, the crops look pretty good coming on the way over here.
Yeah, they do. They look real good. It had a kind of a fairly early spring this year, and the guys were able to get a lot of work done in a short.
Yes, John, we are at the Nelson Insurance Agency right in the heart of downtown Cannon Falls. One could say that the Nelson Insurance Agency is the heart of Cannon Falls. One can actually say that. Scott Safe is with us. Pastor Broyne is with us. Mark Showquist, he talks about smooth-talking Mr. Nelson, does Jack Lucking. But Mark did a very good job on our first. Who made this poster, by the way, Scott? Can you tell me who made that poster? That's very nice. I like that drawing.
Yeah, one of the members of Spring Garden, Sue Erickson, did that, and she's really a good artist. You're right; it's very unique. Those of you that haven't seen it, it's a couple of churches. One church is Besa, one church is Spring Garden, with a fence that runs down the middle and a farmer on each side shaking hands over the fence. So, really, it is a neat little piece of artwork. We do sell T-shirts, and so if you're interested over there on Sunday, they're $10 a piece. And it is kind of a unique little keepsake to commemorate the tractor parade.
This is your church festival.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a midsummer festival, which is a Swedish festival celebrating the longest day of the summer. And they'll have do they call it it's not a maypole. What is that called? Is it a maypole? Yeah, and they'll dance around the maypole and all this kind of. You just got to come. You just got to come to see. You know, it's one of those things you just got to see. If you have Swedish heritage, or even if you don't, come on over and visit and see what's going on at Spring Garden.
The pancakes sound delicious.
You know, that Vesa does the pancakes, and they are delicious. And I've ate enough of them to know.
You got the record?
I don't think I have the record, but they're really good.
You know what the record is?
No, we should find that out. I wonder. It would be a lot. It would be a lot.
Because they're small?
No, just good.
They're thin, but they're
good.
big.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The berries sound good to me.
They are good, too.
Sounds like the way to eat them. So how many tractors typically do you get for this?
Well, usually, I think last year was 65 to 70, something in there. You do not need to pre-register. Just show up at Vesa on their grounds. And we'll line you up when you get there, and we'll get what kind of tractor your name and what kind of tractor you're driving. We run that over to Spring Garden, and then we'll announce them as they come in at Spring Garden. So don't worry about any pre-registration. There's no fees. Just come on over and have fun.
So how does this help in terms of the fundraising for the church festival?
There's no real fundraising to the tractor parade, but it does bring a lot of people to the ground. Now, when the people get to the church grounds, there's food to eat, of course. They'll sell cookbooks. Last year we raffled off a quilt that the church women made, so on and so forth. And one thing, and I'm glad you brought it up, Gordy, because we need to talk about is this dunk tank. And yes, the dunk tank is a big fundraiser. Now, what's happening this year is, of course, Pastor Cindy and Pastor Nick, they're our pastors. They're also married. And there's a contest going on, and whichever raises the most money gets to have the other one dunked. And so right now, I think Pastor Nick is in the lead, and Cindy was pleading to the congregation on Sunday to please add to her kitty.
Aww.
So we need Cindy to go up, and Nick, and you know, Gordy, I would love if you got involved. We would love to dunk Gordy. I think we could raise some good money with that.
Maybe a couple dollars. That'd be it.
If Grosskreutz is listening, you could start the bidding.
Come on now. I didn't come over here for this. Dunk tank. I can't swim.
Well, I'll be there to help.
It's not that deep, right? Yeah. Oh, boy.
It'd probably be a good thing if Mr. Grosskreutz didn't come at that point, because he'd probably tie a cement block onto Gordy's leg or something when it goes down.
Come on now. I think Jerry's the guy who ought to get the dunk tank.
I'm up for that.
He's the tractor man.
And he could come with his tractor.
Although Father's Day probably has plans.
Well, he might. But you can always come if you wish.
Yeah. Well, so what's on the line here? You got a bet between yourselves, you and your lovely bride, on who's going to raise the most and everything, or do you want to?
Well, it makes for interesting conversation around the dinner table.
I'll bet tell you that much.
Yeah, I mentioned to the church yesterday that, you know, one of Cindy's favorite things to do as a pastor is baptisms. And, of course, that involves water. So since she's so good with water, I thought she would be a natural to go right in that dunk tank one more year. So I think that would be a fitting.
So you raise more money and she goes in the tank. She raises more and you go.
Yeah, that's the story.
So how close are you?
You know, we haven't counted it. We're going to let that be a surprise, you know. So, but I suppose it's wise for us both to be prepared.
It's quite a way to spend the Father's Day. Now, this doesn't always land on Father's Day, does it, or does it?
No, it doesn't always land on Father's Day. But, you know, as Mark said, we had some conversation about that. You know, this is June 21st, so it is kind of the traditional longest day of the year. And we thought, you know, it is Father's Day. The next weekend after that is getting close to the July 4th holiday weekend. And we thought, you know, let's just do this. This would be a great opportunity if somebody doesn't have plans for Father's Day to come on out to the Spring Garden Church service, which we have at 10 o'clock. It's an outdoor gospel and praise service. And then stay for a great dinner with Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes and gravy and all the fixings, plus some Swedish things like ostekaka. And then with live music and with the tractor parade, what Father's Day couldn't be better than that?
What's ostekaka?
You know, I should let a Swede mention what that is. Scott, can you describe? Mark, can you describe it?
Well, it's a dish that's made of milk, mostly. Excuse me. You got to have fresh milk out of the milk tank, and use some rennet tablets to make the milk curdle. and then it's baked, and it's a tremendous dish, and people come from miles around to eat ostekaka because it's a very traditional Swedish dish and very good.
Well, I might just come over just to have the ostekaka, but you're not going to throw me in the dunk tank.
Well, we'll get you full of ostekaka first, and then you'll float if you go down in the dunk tank, Cordy.
Wow. Lecking got the wrong guy here, I think.
But, you know, the interesting thing, of course, is obviously the tractor parade. And, you know, we get many different kinds, anywhere from Massey Ferguson to Oliver to Case International, the old Internationals, John Deere's, Alice Chalmers. Scott's wife, Brenda's going to be driving shiny Alice Chalmers tractor. Scott's dad will have some international tractors in there, 1, 2, maybe three possibly. Fords are in there. I know I spoke to one individual, Dean Anderson. He's going to have his Ford 8N that his dad bought brand new back in 1952, I believe he said. So we've got a wide range of tractors from old tractors to some fairly new ones.
I'd just like to add, Mark, one of the things that I find most fascinating is those tractors come by in the parade. Each year we always have one fellow that drives in a tractor that is just beat all to heck. It's not shiny and new and beautiful. It is well worn, and you wonder how it even makes the distance from Vesa to Spring Garden. But I think that's a great metaphor for a working tractor, just like Vesa Church and Spring Garden Church. You know, we're working churches. You know, we put our nose to the grindstone. We work hard. We're a good community, and I just love to see that tractor come in. You know, it just keeps putting right on through, and every year it's kind of a highlight. Everybody looks at that thing and wonders how it got there, but it's great to see.
Midsummer Festival has been going on how long?
Oh my goodness!
Since before you came?
Oh yeah, it's the history of the church. Midsummer's origins really happen over in Sweden. It's something that is done as a festival still in Sweden. Although I will say in Sweden, from what I've heard, there's a bit more of different kind of beverage that's served at that one in Sweden than we have here at Spring Garden during the summertime. But it's still part of that tradition of celebrating the longest day of the year.
The church celebrated, what did you say, in 2010?
Well,
your sesquicentennial?
Vesa Spring Garden Mutual actually had its 150th anniversary in 2010, but Spring Garden had its 150th in 2008, and I believe Vesa did in 2006, 7. Okay. They were both, along with other churches in this area, started by Pastor Norelius, and who also started Gustavus College and Lutheran Social Services. So he started a lot of churches in that time frame. So Vesa and Spring Garden are both very old traditional churches in this in Cannon Falls area.
Yeah, sounds like you should name your town Norelius.
Yeah, that's maybe true.
I wonder how it did get the name Cannon Falls.
I'm not sure. I actually had an old relative who was a historian, and he found some information on that, and it kind of goes back to, there is an actual falls here in Cannon Falls on the Cannon River, and it was actually at that time called Canoe Falls, part of an Indian tradition of, having to take your canoe out at the falls and come around the edge. And that's what he told me, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
And then became Cannon Falls. Yeah. Maybe it was after around the Civil War or something when they had the cannons. I don't know. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. The Midsummer Festival is on Sunday, June 21st. And you want to tell us what you got going on over at Spring Garden?
Sure. At 10 a.m., we have a gospel and praise service. We bring out the guitar, a couple of guitars and the banjos, and we have some good old traditional music that people enjoy singing, and we have that at 10 a.m. And as soon as the service is over, we have 11 a.m. We start the Midsummer Festival activities, and that's where we start serving the food, which is the Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes and gravy and corn and all the other Swedish fixins. And we do have a couple of music groups that will be playing throughout the duration of the day for just people's enjoyment and some good background music and some real talent there. We also have a variety of games for kids, so this isn't just for the senior set. There's not to mention the dunk tank, of course, but we also have kind of a beanbag toss, cornhole they call it, and we have a nice horseshoe pit if people like throwing horseshoes. That's really great to see. I remember when I was a kid out in Pennsylvania where I grew up, it was sort of a pastime at church picnics. You'd bring out the horseshoe and you'd see some of the older gentlemen get out there and throw the horseshoes, and it was really something to bring the gentlemen together. So
I remember at my church festival they had horseshoes too. And I'll never forget this till I'm in Rockin' in the nursing home. There was a guy that used to chew tobacco, and he'd set a spittoon over by where he'd throw the horseshoes. He'd get done throwing the horseshoe, he'd hit the ringer, he'd spit, he'd hit that spittoon.
So he had game all the way around, huh?
It was hilarious.
Yeah. And one thing that is important, of course, with serving all this food, we do have a free will offering to help make sure that we can cover our costs and everything and create a good place for hospitality for the whole community to gather around for a good meal and great fellowship.
Church membership holding steady because, there aren't as many people living in the country these days.
Well, I heard one time this is a really interesting statistic that 80% of the economic activity in the state of Minnesota happens in kind of a crescent shape between Rochester, the Twin Cities, and St. Cloud. 80%. And Spring Garden is about halfway between Rochester and the Twin Cities. So we're right in the middle of that. So I know there are a lot of rural communities, that are having tough times, and small towns that are having tough times. But we are blessed in many ways to have a congregation that is we have a lot of older people. We have a lot of young families. We have a lot of middle-aged people and empty nesters. Just a really great group of people from all ages that make it feel like a real family here out at Spring Garden.
All right, I'm going to take a break here from our super sponsors, the Nelson Insurance Agency, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the activities going on at Mesa Church on Sunday, too. John? And we're at the Nelson Insurance Agency in the heart of Cannon Falls. Scott Safe, Pastor Broyne, Mark Shulquist, all with us here sitting in the conference room. I guess we won't get the smooth talker on the air today, I guess. Jim Nelson, he's busy working. The rest of us are, I don't know, is this work, Scott?
Nope.
Hey.
This is fun.
No, it is fun. Here in downtown Cannon Falls. You're going to tell us all about what Mesa is having going on at their church.
Yeah, I sure will. So if you do show up at Mesa, and that's where the tractor parade would start from. So if you're coming for the tractor parade, you do need to go to Mesa. But at 9 a.m., they're going to be serving those Swedish pancakes, and they are delicious. Same situation at Mesa. There's a free will offering. So, don't be afraid to bring the whole family and, pay whatever you think is appropriate. But please bring plenty of folks. They like to make pancakes. I don't remember if they thought they served nearly 200 last year, 200 people, something to that effect. But anyway, they're more than ready to go. They've got that nice community center with a big kitchen and a big area to sit inside. We have had a little rain the last couple of years. Don't let that scare you. We just stayed there until the rain passed last year. And again, there's food and coffee and whatever. And away we go. Then they do have their church service at 10:30 a.m. Last year was an outdoor service. This year, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be outdoor or indoor. But they do have their 10:30 church service. 11:30, we have what they call the blessing of the tractors and drivers before they head out. So at about 11:30, that parade will leave Mesa, and then we'll head on over to Spring Garden. If you're wondering as far as the route, it's probably about 10 miles. It usually takes about an hour, and I can tell you that because my wife's tractor is pretty slow. It's a John Deere an Alice Chalmers B, and it goes about 12 miles an hour wide open. And so she kind of sets the pace, and you can do the math, but if it's 10 miles and she's going 12 miles an hour, it's going to be right about an hour by the time they get to Spring Garden. So that means 12:30-ish. We'll be at 12:30. So if you're coming to watch the parade come into Spring Garden, that would be the time when the tractors probably will arrive there. And, of course, at that point, their live music is already going on. The food is already being served, and things are already happening. So, that's kind of the route and the times.
One thing that takes place right after the tractors arrive is we have a nice big open field area out behind the church, and the tractors all park out there. So you can visit with the tractor drivers and owners and ask questions about what's going on with their particular vehicle and explain, where it came from or if it belonged to their father or their grandfather.
it's great stuff.
No, everybody loves those stories. Did you grow up on a farm? You said in Pennsylvania.
I grew up in Pennsylvania. I grew up kind of on a hobby farm, so we lived just outside of town, and my mother raised dairy goats, so I learned how to milk goats by hand. We didn't have fancy milkers for goats back then, but so I learned how to do that, and we had hogs, and I raised those. So even though I grew up out east, I do have some farm background. Yeah.
The first tractor you drove was?
Oh golly, I think it was an Alice Chalmers. Actually, my great uncle Ivan had a tractor. I was just a really little kid, and he sat me on his lap, and I got to drive that with him. That was a great memory for me. Great uncle Ivan also he loved kids, and he built a homemade merry-go-round in his backyard. And he would go on that merry-go-round, he'd turn that thing on, and would go in circles, and you just thought you were getting close to heaven, almost like Swedish pancakes. But it was a great memory. It was.
Did Uncle Ivan have kids?
I'm trying to remember. I think he did.
But yeah, you had a tractor calendar here. Is that from your tractor parade, Scott?
No, it is not. But Gordy, we have talked about that and even kicked around doing. One of the local banks does barns, the local barns on theirs, and we have talked about that. But we've not done that. But it would be a cool idea, and it's something we've really
something you could do as a fundraiser for the church.
Yeah, it would be a good idea. So we've not done that yet, but it's definitely in our thoughts.
Your first tractor?
Dad had an 8N, an 8N Ford, and that I believe was the first tractor I ever drove. Pretty sure of that.
See, everybody remembers that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a big day when you got to drive.
Like your first kiss.
Yeah, well, right.
I won't make it say about this. Brenda might be listening.
Yeah, Pastor Nick touched on the one subject that the tractors will all be on display at Spring Garden there once the parade is over. So, and absolutely, talking to the owners, finding some of the history on some of these tractors is really great because a lot of them are tractors that maybe their first tractor that they bought or the first tractor their dad bought. So lots of history there. So,
and think about, they keep these in the family, which I think is so cool.
Absolutely, and some people, they might have sold those tractors, but then they've done some work to try and find out where they went and gone back and bought them back from a different owner just because they were probably purchased new by their dad or something similar to that situation.
Yeah. Your first tractor?
It was a Ford 8N. I know our neighbor Clarence Johnson had a little Ford, and that was kind of the smallest tractor that was available. So yeah, that's what I learned to drive on.
No green guys here. Jerry will love that.
But I got a sign in my office, Gordy. It says, "If it ain't red, leave it in the shed."
Oh.
So you know where my loyalties lay.
Yeah, those are fighting words for Jerry, yeah.
And if you want one of those T-shirts, we are actually International Red this year, our Tractor Parade T-shirts. So if you are looking for a T-shirt and you're a fan of International, we've got a bunch of T-shirts to sell on Sunday.
I suppose I should ask Pastor Boyne, this must be a fundraiser for the church, right, the Midsummer Festival?
Well, we certainly cover our costs. That's really important. And a little bit extra helps the general fund, and that's always important for any congregation to make sure that you can keep your ministry and your mission central to what you do. That's really important. I think the main reason we do this is because we want to create a place of hospitality for the community. We want people to feel like, their neighborhood church is open and welcoming, and they've got a place where they can come and visit and get to know others. And we trust that everything else is good after that.
You're only 10 miles apart, but you're not competitors.
No, I think every church in this community, I think one of the things that we are learning well is that it's really important for each of us to do the best at what we do. And that way we don't have to compete with each other. We try to do our best to encourage each other. I think congregations, as you said, Gordy, it's not easy being the church today, but when we work together, we're stronger.
Sounds like a Christian theme there of some sort.
Yeah, it's really important stuff.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. Appreciate you coming over. Thanks, Scott.
Yes, thank you, Gordy, so much. And KDHL, we really appreciate this.
Well, thanks to the Nelson Insurance.
Yes, and thank you, Mark, and Nelson Insurance.
Yeah, for sponsoring the show.
Well, we're happy you were able to come over here, Gordy, and, you guys do an excellent job of supporting all the activities in the area, and we do appreciate that, Gordy, so thanks a lot.
You bet, and I'll try and get Jerry in that dunk tank. That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota on KDHL AM Faribault, Minnesota.